My name is David Clark from Fareham and former lecturer at Fareham College, where I taught electronics for 12 years. I was born in Oldham, Lancashire in 1949 and was educated and trained as a lecturer at Wolverhampton Polytechnic, where I graduated with a certificate in education awarded by Birmingham University in 1977. I tell you these things not to bring attention to myself, but rather that you might understand who I am and where I'm coming from, and endorse the work of those organisations and people whom I've worked with. I have successfully taught hundreds of students in colleges of higher and further education during my 22 years as a lecturer, and many have qualified with a City and Guilds qualification in electronic servicing. I have 6 children, raised in Aylesbury, Shropshire, Luton and Fareham and Stubbington. 4 of my children were taught at Henry Court and 3 went on to university, trained in the arts, drama and textiles. My eldest son is now teaching English in Vietnam. 1 daughter is a qualified midwife, whilst the other lives and works in Dubai as a recruitment officer who supports me as a secretary, assisting me in my voluntary work here in Fareham. I say these things to show that I'm able to speak from experience about the educational and recreational needs of young people. My former and earlier life had been rather different. My brother Michael and I were both convicted criminals in the 60s and were sent to prison for malicious wounding and carrying a firearm without a licence. We grew up in Aylesbury during the 60s and became criminals. We were mods. On leaving Dover Borstal in 1968, I had a 3-year career of undetected crime, and my brother had spent 2 terms in Oxford Detention Centre, Borstal training at Rochester, and finally a convict at Maidstone Prison. My life was turned round overnight after a bad experience on LSD when I cried out to God for help, and it was then that I realised and had the desire to turn my life round. I learned to read, as I was virtually illiterate, reading a range of classical literature and the Bible. Within 1 year of my conversion, I was able to confess to the police to over 24 crimes that I committed since leaving Dover Borstal in 1968, and was fortunate not to receive a custodial sentence. In 1976, I was received as a member of the Beaton Stricton Particular Baptist Church, and later I became the secretary. I went on to higher education. I was called to preach and sent by the church as a minister to preach in 1982 and preached in many churches in England. My brother's life remained unchanged and he continued his flamboyant lifestyle, and in 1995, whilst I was teaching at Fareham College, I got news via the ITN television network of my brother's arrest and imprisonment in the Philippines, where he was sent to prison for 16 years. It was towards the end of the year 1999 that I got news of my brother's own conversion and his own reformation, and he too turned from his criminal past and became a Christian. He was baptised as a Christian in New Bilibid Prison in an old US Army oil drum by a former inmate. It was then I felt moved to write our story and publish my first book, now released under the title Mr. Clark from Beaton, alternatively Aylesbury Remembered and More. I then, in September 2001, left Fareham College and went on full-time mission work to the Philippines to bring help and relief to my brother and many reformed prison inmates. This work is fully recorded in our book Trojan Warriors, which contains 66 testimonies of convicted criminals in New Bilibid Prison who too had been converted, 22 of which were scheduled to be put to death by lethal injection for crimes against humanity. Both these books are available from Amazon.co.uk and Amazon.com.